Hi everyone, Coach and Hoka One One Athlete Sage Candidate here with another Training Talk Tuesday. I believe this is episode 13, 14. We're going to dive right in and answer your top voted question from last week. Thanks to everyone who commented below and voted for this week's topic. The question is how to periodize strength training in sync with a 16 to 20 week half marathon training plan. So periodization, we're talking about how training changes over time, right? Over the weeks or months that you are training for this goal half marathon race. It could be a marathon race or a 10K or 5K as well, ultra marathon. I'll break down the fundamentals here, but how that changes in these training blocks, and we do think of it in training blocks. So what I like to do is look at a calendar. So with the calendar, you're looking at this calendar grid and how we break down running training workouts with the periodization, so to speak, is you look at it in chunks or blocks of maybe 4 to 6 weeks usually, but it could be as short as a 2-week block. For example, if you have a taper 2 weeks before your goal race, that might be a 2-week block taper phase. Whereas when you first start running, you might have a 3-week introduction phase where you're really slowly getting into things. Whereas your big bulk specific training segments or blocks might be these 6-week chunks in the middle, right? So you're thinking you're training like that, Jack Daniel's distance running formula, you got the 4-phase training, Canova, competition, race-specific special block phases. Any good training program is going to have this periodization. Now, when we look at it in the context of strength training, we have to look at all the stresses being applied to the body because there's an overtraining risk and there's an injury risk. And truth be told, I am obviously not a strength coach. I am not expert at strength training. I've dabbled in it over the years of my career, as well as with athletes I've coached. I've gone through the NCAA Division I college system, track programs, worked at a lot of running camps with high school kids, lifted weights over the years, worked at a gym in college. But I'm not an expert. I haven't done any heavy, big lifting, and so I'm not. It was always more of the thing for me personally, run more to get better at distance running, right? If you spend more time running, you can get a lot better at distance running, right? You don't want to waste all your time doing all the curls for the girl or the bench press, right? It's not specific, and it takes a lot of time maybe if you have to go to the gym. That being said, the caveat there with strength training is it might help you really iron out something that's wrong with your form. So strength training could really help boost your running efficiency, running economy, but also help reduce the risk of injury, right? Could help iron out your running form, make you very efficient. It also could help build up some lean muscle mass, get the testosterone boosted up, amp up your metabolism, get the calories burning extra. So you look good when you're exercising. You also look good naked, right? It's vanity reasons sometimes even. But build bone density, bone mass, also very important. So injury prevention, extremely important tool. And if you want to be a well-rounded athlete, especially if you're into trail running or you get to a certain point where you're banging out all these miles, you're not progressing, you need that extra boost. Maybe you need that extra little power in your stride or that neuromuscular fast twitch muscle fiber activation. Strength training has a role, but how you do it is very strategic, and it does depend on a lot of variables, and that's kind of the purpose, I think, of this talk. And like I said, the question's about half marathon, but this applies to marathon, ultra marathon, as well as 5K or 10K. You might change it up a bit, though, depending on the intensity of the running workouts that you are doing, the intensity of the lifting, right? You start doing intense running workouts in the middle of your training blocks. Let's say it's maybe phase 3 training, maybe it's 6 to 8 weeks into your training program. You're starting to hit really high mileage. You're starting to throw down with some track intervals, VO2 max intervals, or speed work, 400-meter repeats, or even some long runs. That's a lot of stress. You don't need to be lifting as hard as you can along with all those stressful workouts. So that's what you have to be careful with is not straining yourself too much because your legs are tired just from the running. That doesn't mean you should be doing a bunch of heavy squats in the middle of that necessarily. Now, I say necessarily because it does depend on the individual. There's individual differences. If you're someone like me who doesn't come from another power sport background, who hasn't had extensive lifting, especially lower body lifting experience, I would do it very sparingly and introduce it very gradually. Whereas if you're someone who's used to lifting a lot, you could get back and do it really fast. It's not too much of an extra stress that your body's not necessarily not used to, right? And it depends on the goal race. So you need a little more muscle power and speed usually for the mile or the 1500 or even a 5K versus like, a marathon, right? Where you might be, there might be more lean muscle mass you want to gain, right? You don't want to bulk up maybe too much if that's your goal. So, it really depends on that. And as I said with the workouts, you need to be balancing that. Now, when you start off, you take a break from running, you got the 16-week training program, you got your goal race, you got a 2-week taper phase. Those first couple weeks back are kind of an introduction phase, so to speak, to running, right? You're doing pretty much all easy running, very slow paced, maybe not even running every day, maybe running every other day at first, getting the legs used to it, not getting too much pounding on the legs. Maybe, second, third week in, you do some strides, a little bit of light speed work, but no hard intervals, no super long runs, no tempo runs even maybe. Then you might do some light lifting. Now, what lifting you choose to do, I say variation is key. Variation is key. Generally, for most runners, what you want to do is you want to start with the core. The core always could be very strong. When we're talking about core, we're talking about not only the abs, the stomach muscles, obliques, deep ab muscles, but also the lower backs, the hips, the glutes, right? Glute power, butt power, right? So all these areas. And if you've had some injury trouble in the past, or you have a certain running form flaw, you might not know it, but if you've had some injury issues, you might want to target certain muscle groups over others. But in general, having a strong core could help very much, especially if you have some sort of muscle imbalance that could happen over time. So stabilizing that core, very important. Even simple body weight exercises like planks, air squats could really help. Push-ups, right? Depends on your upper body strength maybe as well. I like to do pull-ups even. That's probably a little less specific, but it still engages the core. So very important. Now, you have like calf or Achilles issues. Maybe you want to focus more on, ankle dynamics, calf raises, stuff like that. Doing some deadlifts could also help if you want to slowly introduce that. But that would be over the courses of weeks, and it would still be in that early season phase, so to speak. Maybe in that second phase 2 or early block in the training where you're not doing really hard specific workouts, you're starting to get more specific with your strength training in the gym, right? Not adding too much stress too fast, right? You're slowly increasing your mileage probably, but it's all easy paced, relaxed running mileage. You're not doing a bunch of high intensity stuff yet. Because the problem is when you get into the meat of your training, and again, this is probably 6 to 8 weeks in, weeks 6 to 12, you're hitting things real hard. You've got a program where you're doing speed work, you're doing the tempo runs, you're doing long runs, you're hitting really high peak mileage. You don't necessarily want to be lifting at your hardest in. The lifting happens in the base phase more when you want to create all-around strength and injury resistance so your body can handle the higher mileage and you can get into shape in a progressive manner, so to speak. Coach Sandy, weigh in. I see you looking at me over there. What do you want to say? Coach Sandy's coming over. Subscribe to her channel, Running Wild.
So I do have a couple strength training videos on my channel, even one with more like heavy lifting. So feel free to check that out. But I just wanted to jump in really quick. So when you're at your peak running training, it's not that you're not lifting heavy, it's just that you're just maintaining. So you start lifting heavy at the beginning of your running program, and then you can still lift heavy, but you're just maintaining that and not necessarily adding more. And then as you get closer to the race, you can do two different things. So let's say like you're 4 weeks into the race, you can either continue with the heavy lifting or what some strength training programs specifically for like elite runners have done in the past. They switched more to plyometrics to really apply that strength to running. But again, with plyometrics, heavy lifting, like perfect form or else you're going to get injured and you need to have a smart progression up to that point.
Very well said. Thanks, babe. Thanks for Sandy's does more elaborate strength training routines. Check out her channel, subscribe on there. She lifts a lot more than I do. But that's a great point with the periodization. And one final thing in closing that I will say about this is, hope I didn't mess up my microphone there, is that, if you have a hard workout scheduled, say on Wednesday you got 1,000-meter repeats, 6 times a kilometer at 5K pace, VO2 max type of workout. It's a hard workout. You don't want to lift the night before. You don't want to be doing all your squats and heavy lifting the night before that workout. You might be a little sore and dead-legged, especially if you're not a super experienced lifter. Likewise, you don't want to lift a couple hours before that workout necessarily. What you do want to do, though, is maybe lift right after the workout, right? Make your hard days hard. So, you do this interval session, hard track long run, hard tempo run, you immediately go into the gym and you do your lifts on tired legs. They're not max out lifts. You still want to have good form. You don't want to totally max yourself out, but you're getting a double whammy of hardness, so to speak, in that big day. And then the next 2 days, you could take a big recovery session, right? You might take the next day off. You might do some light running the day after that, no lifting. So you've had these really hard day, hard running, hard lifting session, then recover. Now, you wouldn't always necessarily do that because it depends on, the intensity and how much a workout's going to fatigue you when it comes to the skeletal muscular system. But that's just kind of an idea, is that you don't want to exhaust yourself so much that your form gets sloppy. That goes with speed training, run your running form, but also with your lifting form. And again, I'm not an expert on the lifting form at all. As Sandy said, the form's really important, and how you maintain is going to be relative to your experience level in the gym, in lifting. But like we said, you want to start out trying to address muscle imbalances, work on form flaws, reduce the risk of injury. That's probably the most important. But lifting all around, you're going to look good, you're going to feel good, you're hopefully going to run with better form, a little more power, and you're going to look good naked. So good confidence boost all around, up your metabolism, stay fit and healthy, have a well-balanced training program, and look at those details when you structure that into your training plan. So thanks so much for subscribing on here. Again, really appreciate all the support. Be sure to subscribe to Sandy's channel, Running Wild, over there. Subscribe to this channel for more of these training talks, adventure vlogs, stuff like that. Any service, any distance. Thanks to title sponsor, Hoka One, keeping the dream alive. Thanks to all the Patreon supporters, really making this channel possible. And check out the training plans Coach Sandy and I sell at higherrunning.com. Thanks so much. And comment below for comments for a training talk topic next week and upvote that. That'll be the one I answer next Tuesday. Thanks again. Stay tuned for more via 2Max Productions.